This is Jason David Frank, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You are now on the inside of what I like to call the circle of trust.
We are all connected in the great circle of life.
You know something, Bert? What? I think you and I are going in circles.
It feels like we're going in circles.
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Because it's a circle.
Yeah, we heard about the circle. Yes, we're familiar with shapes.
Hi, this is Greg.
This is Chuck.
And this is Dan, and we are Talking in Circles, brought to you by the Geekcast Radio Network, the podcast that would walk 5,000 miles just for you.
And would walk 5,000 more. Da-da-da-da.
I picked one that didn't have many words after it, so that way Greg didn't have much to say.
Well, I was going to keep going on the da-da-da-das, but I was going to be like, okay, I'm going to say a da-da-da-da, and then one of the other guys will say da-da-da-da, and then we could all do a da-da-da-da, but you guys didn't chime in.
Yeah.
We failed you.
Yeah, darn it. Next time. All right, we'll start this again. Ready?
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Anyways, welcome to the episode 25 of Talking in Circles. This week we are making the unknown known as we count down our top 5 movies that you have not seen. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm really curious how that's all going to work out. But before we get to our top 5, how's the week been going for you guys?
Not too bad. Kind of a boring week, actually. On my end, nothing really. I mean, I was super busy, but boring in the sense that nothing really funny happened. So that was kind of disappointing. But
you don't do all the real life stuff, huh?
Yeah, I did. I did get to pick some strawberries, so that was kind of cool.
Ooh, delicious. Though I don't like them.
I love strawberries. It's my favorite fruit of all time. I gotta brag a little. I picked 20 pounds of strawberries in an hour, so.
Nice.
A little over an hour, so. It was like 9 hours, but.
Did you look at the migrant workers and be like, yeah, see, I can, yeah?
They wanted to hire me. I was like, nah, that's all right. I got a job.
Greg, how's your week been going?
It's been all right. Unfortunately, that person on Skype has not gotten back to me. So sorry, everybody. But I do have a little short story. It's still in progress. Apparently, my brother's girlfriend, her dog was having some kind of issue today where it was having trouble breathing, and it's been shitting and pooping like constantly at the same time. So
what's the difference between shitting and pooping?
Oh, that shitting and peeing everywhere. I knew it was a P word.
I was waiting until you picked up on that.
No, I wasn't getting it. But yeah, it's been shitting and peeing and having trouble breathing. And apparently, while we were having dinner tonight, apparently the dog hadn't stopped breathing, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
So apparently my brother's girlfriend, I'm like filling in some of the blanks here because I don't have all the information. I just got a text from my dad, and it said that the dog was at the vets in Clark Summit, and my brother's girlfriend was in Mercy Hospital. Okay. Wow. Apparently she tried to give the dog mouth to mouth because the dog stopped breathing.
Oh, no.
But apparently, I think she got it breathing again because she got bit on the nose by the dog. So apparently she's got to get something done with her nose, and the dog's got to get something fixed out with its breathing.
Well, that's one way to thank someone for saving your life.
Right?
Oh, man. That dog's a dick. No, I'm just joking. Well, that's tough.
Steve Irwin there to be like, pow, right in the nose.
Well, that sucks. I will try to bring us up from, puppies being sick, because that's.
Yes, my puppy story was the fate of our stars of this.
You're trying to top my Fault of Our Stars movie. Yeah. But hopefully, hope the dog gets better there. Best wishes.
I like dogs normally. This dog, I do not give one shit about. It's kind of a dog.
Okay, then.
It's kind of possessed.
The only way to make it better is that when it comes back home, that she gets to bite the dog in the nose.
She would never do that. She was crying like hardcore.
Wow. So, well, I do kind of have a little bit of a funny story. At least it's funny now for me. Last week I went on vacation. I know a lot of people probably went on vacation as the weekend before this because of its 4th of July weekend. So hope all you Americans had a good holiday weekend. And for those who listen to us out of state, well, you know, it's American holiday, so it's really a worldwide holiday. So
America, fuck yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome for your freedom. Anyways, I was going to the beach, and it's been the first time I went to the beach in actually quite a while. It's been like 6 years, even though I only live like 2 hours away from it. And I live in Maryland.
Dan.
I live in Maryland, and for those who don't know, Maryland's kind of like a undercase N. It's shaped like that way, and I live near Baltimore, so I'm going to Ocean City, which is like in the middle, and on the other side of it. So in order to get there, though, there's this thing called the Chesapeake Bay in the way, and
bastard.
To preface this, I'm not the biggest fan of heights. Like, you know, if I was going to make a top 5 of my favorite things in the world, heights would not be on there. It's not necessarily heights that I worry about, but the whole falling aspect of it. So part of this is also with that, not a big fan of going over bridges all the time. I can usually handle
like my boss.
I usually can handle it pretty well, but partially going into Ocean City, I have to cross what's called the Bay Bridge, which it's a pretty old bridge. It's decently long. It's nothing like the Golden Gate Bridge or so, but it's a well-sized bridge. We're crossing the Chesapeake Bay, which is a huge water outlet.
Is it pretty wide?
Yeah, it's pretty wide.
Okay. It's pretty large. It's got a nice circumference to it.
It does. Well, this is part of the issue.
Nice, big and black.
It's more of a gray. You know, I don't know if that's just from aging. You know, it happens.
Yeah. Right.
But
is it kind of hairy?
Are there bridges that are hairy? I don't even.
Moss on it and stuff?
No, it's not that old. It's not that. Okay. It's not like a bridge from Ireland or something like that.
All right, I'll let you finish your story now.
I don't know what that was, but anyways. But so I don't like going over bridges, and I have to go over this bridge. It's pretty long. I'm like, I'll be fine. I usually just go in the middle lane, and I have no issue or whatever. But that didn't really happen. One of the lanes was shut down that was going to the direction I had to go to. So what I ended up doing is it kind of split the traffic. So I was on the one side of the bridge that usually has 3 lanes going west, but it changed to 2 lanes going west and 1 lane going east. So to my left, I have 2 lanes of traffic going really, really fast. To my right, I have the bridge and like a very steep drop down. So it starts off okay, but eventually near the top part of the bridge, I noticed on the right-hand side, kind of the cement like barrier goes away, and it ends up just being kind of like a fence. And I've seen more distinct structures separating people in the lines at the bank than was this fence. It was this is a rather flimsy fence to be separating myself from a gigantic fall, and then to my left, I just have cars going over the place. And with my not big fan of heights, my mind likes to play little games with me where it's like shooting in images of bad things that could possibly happen, like wind suddenly coming and my car going off the edge. And there's like every bad thing that could possibly happen. It's just like going into my head as I have a huge steep fall on the right-hand side and I have cars whizzing by. So I've never had a panic attack in my life, but I should mention I'm driving at this point, but I start having one and freaking out and like cursing a lot and like yelling. And like I realized this, so I had to like calm myself down in order to like cross this bridge. And like I was like, oh crap, I need to like get it over with and then finally get over it. And inch by inch, I finally got through it. But it was it was rather not a fun experience, and it was so great when I finally got done. And needless to say, on our way back, my wife drove. So, but yeah, I was like, I had to earn my trip to the beach. So
you had some Final Destination thoughts in your head there.
Pretty much. It's like, this is what happened. I'm thinking of the image of Pacific Rim where that gigantic Jaeger or the kaiju comes out and like destroys the bridge, or Godzilla. Like I'm like, all these movies are coming back to haunt me, and all these bad images. And then, but I like literally had to calm myself down and think happy thoughts, and I eventually got there.
Well, if it was good guy Godzilla, he wouldn't have destroyed the bridge.
True.
He would have went under it.
Yeah. He would have like helped me over, you know.
Did Carol lock you in the trunk as you went over the bridge?
No, the next time I just it wasn't as bad because we were more in the middle lane and I didn't have, traffic coming in the opposite direction. So
okay.
It was more so I didn't mentally prepare myself for that situation. So I'm like, crap. Because, we go to Philly, we have to go over bridges. I'm usually fine, but it was just, the combination of all the bad things happening. So, and then, I was thinking back last year, there was an accident on the Bray Bridge where a tractor trailer got hit by a high wind and fell off. So I'm thinking, that's going to happen because that's how my brain works. But anyways, I enjoyed the bridge. Once I got to the beach, it was a good time. Spent, 5 hours at the beach on Saturday, just swimming around and whatnot, and it was a good time, though I ended up getting burned. So now I'm, peeling, which is great, because now I look like patient zero of an upcoming plague as I'm walking around with my face falling off. So it's
awesome. Go up to a little kid and just peel off, a whole huge hunk of it.
People probably think I'm crazy at work, because, I can't, not pick at it while I'm at work, so...
Just don't be like a Gold member in the Austin Powers movie.
No, I will not.
I saved this one for you. Puts in the box, even though that accent was probably more Asian than whatever the hell he was.
But surprisingly less offensive. So, but while at the beach, I did do something which I don't do nearly enough, and that was read an actual book. Not only a book, but a book without photos. So it wasn't a comic book, but a legitimate novel. So it was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie.
Was it one of those vacationers pamphlets from the lobby?
No. It was actually a pretty extensive book. It was over 500 pages. It's called Leviathan Wake. Knowing I was going to the beach, I wanted to pick up a book for the beach, and I did. And I was looking for this one. I was actually kind of looking in the bargain bin center, and this was on one of the bargain bin tables. But when I got up there, it wasn't a bargain. It was actually full price. But I was interested in it enough, and I picked it up. And the thing that kind of got me was there's a quote on it from George R.R. Martin talking about how it's a really good space opera. So, like I mentioned, it's the Leviathan Wakes. It's written by James S.A. Corey, which is actually a pen name for two authors that are actually used to work with George R.R. Martin. And the reason I should probably mention who George R.R. Martin is, for those that don't know, he's the guy who wrote the books for Game of Thrones. So,
good news, Daniel!
What's that?
I picked up the first season of Game of Thrones this 2 days ago or something. So I'm going to get into watching that. I have season 1 on Blu-ray.
I have a good feeling that you're going to watch multiple scenes a lot.
The blonde girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might not make it past the first episode for a good week and a half. So. But the actual, it's a pen name for David Abraham and Ty Frank, who are assistants for George R.R. Martin. What Leviathan Wakes is, it's part 1 of what's called the Expanse series. I haven't read any of the other books, but it takes place thousands of years in the future, which is kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of science fiction nowadays, it's often just in the distant future. It's not too far off unless you're, of course, Star Wars, where it's, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away. But this is we have expanded as a population that we now have colonies on Mars. We actually have colonies in the belt as well, on asteroids. And we're actually using things like Saturn's moons and rings to bring water to all these different stations and whatnot. So it's a kind of a cool world just to begin with. And honestly, I feel like this book was kind of written for me because I'm a big fan of crime. And I should rephrase that. I'm a big fan of the crime
I'm wearing
genre.
My black mask over my face and a ski cap.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the crime genre. And this is kind of written almost like a classic noir in a sense. It's split up between two characters. One is a cop on one of these asteroid stations, and another one is he's a kind of like a miner in a way, like a futurist commander for one of these ships it's really just it's not like a warship. It's just one that's used as a utility ship that travels supplies from place to place. It centers around kind of this universe, and something kind of happens where the one ship is attacked, and they don't really know why. And while that's going on, the guy who's the police detective is also looking for this girl who went missing. And it's kind of like this story where it expands upon itself, and you find out there's a lot of linkings between these two things. It really seemed like they had nothing in common. And there's a war brewing between Mars and Earth because of their conflicts with one another. I don't want to give too much away with the plot because it's kind of easy to kind of get lost in it. But I really, really liked it. I thought it was really good. What's kind of interesting, though, it's not like hardcore science fiction, like not like Star Trek. It's more by the book, I would say. Like I said, it's more of a crime novel than it is science fiction. What was kind of cool, too, is how it would, with it switching between the two characters and how they kind of started very separated and they would come closer to each other and then like how their stories would kind of connect, which was really interesting. I also liked how when it created this world, it also got into how like new prejudice would arise. Like for people who lived in like the asteroid belt for their entire life, they would look differently because of the gravity. They would, without sun, their skins would be different. So like new prejudices started to show up that weren't there before. So it kind of gets into this, and it really like did a good job of like making this world different and unique. And I'm really excited to read the next novel because there's like so much more that this can touch upon. I would say, though, there's not like a lot of like action per se, and where it goes to in like the final few chapters was a little bit out of left field. It felt more like a fantasy concept than a science fiction concept. They try to use science fiction to explain it, but it felt like one of those things where it's like, oh, science, and like they didn't really get into like how it really works, or if they did, I just didn't really completely understand it. But leaves off at a good spot. Definitely looking forward to reading more of it. If there's anyone who's looking for a good like science fiction series to get into, I'd say start with this book. I don't read a lot of books, so I don't know if there's better ones out there. But for all the science fiction I have seen, this is really cool, and I would love to see this become a TV series or become a movie. And with my love of movies, every time I read a book, all I can think of is like how this would work as a film. I don't think it would work as a movie, but I think it could really work as a TV series. So. But anyways, I'll stop blabbering on. Chuck, I know you had a really busy week, but did you get to do anything else this week besides, work, real life stuff?
Well, a couple of nights I did get to, I mentioned last episode I got the Executioner Song hardcover on eBay. So I've been reading a little bit of that. I'm about halfway through. And hopefully when I finish that, I could do like an actual review. But kind of reading that got me into the X-Men mood. So I picked up an old Xbox game that I had, which was X-Men Legends 2 Rise of Apocalypse. I don't know if you guys remember playing that. It's kind of in the style of Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah, I love that game.
I played the first one, and that was it. I wish I played the second one, though.
I would say the second one is like leaps and bounds better than the first one.
The bad thing about those games, not a bad thing, but it's like I just end up like creating teams and just like creating a new team and then creating a new team. Yeah. I couldn't get like on one team. And the cool thing about that one too is like how it brings in the villains and stuff like that. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I usually play like my 4 favorite characters to play with usually are Colossus, Iceman, Gambit, and Wolverine. But I do switch it up because like, you get their attributes built up really high and then some of your other characters are lower. So you kind of have to bring some of them up too. And you need different powers for different levels and stuff. So you do end up having to switch off characters every now and then. But I will say Nightcrawler in that game is really freaking cool because you can just teleport through walls into other sections of the level and stuff like that. And like doors that you would normally have to like go find like a key or something, go on this big hunt to open, like Nightcrawler can just like teleport through the door. So playing with him is pretty sweet, but definitely brought back some memories playing that game.
Would you say you enjoyed the X-Men Legends games more than Ultimate Alliance, or?
Boy, that's close. I mean, I like Ultimate Alliance a lot. The second one, I really didn't care too much for. I do love the first one.
Yeah, that was kind of disappointment because I'm like, it's doing the Civil War storyline, and it just, I don't know, something about it didn't work as well.
Yeah, and I ended up playing that one on the Wii, which was okay. It wasn't like as difficult as I thought it was. I only have a regular Xbox and a Wii, and they didn't make Marvel Ultimate Alliance for the regular Xbox, so I had to get it for Wii to play it. I think I rented it back when like Blockbuster was still around. Ended up beating that, but I do like the first one a lot better. It's a toss-up between that and X-Men Legends 2. I mean, they're set up the exact same way pretty much. I guess it's just a preference of like the storyline and the characters, so I don't know. I kind of like the Ultimate Alliance one a little bit better just because there's a more like variety of characters and stuff.
Very nice. I think my favorite character playing that, I remember loving Magneto and like Juggernaut. Oh man.
Yeah, it's great to just get Juggernaut on your team and just start pounding people.
I got that for like the PSP too, because there was a time in my life where I had a PSP, and I never finished it, and I always wanted to because I think Cable was in it, because like the title screen would show Cable, who is one of my, like, I'm one of the few people that like that character.
Oh yeah. Well, I know some different consoles had different extra characters. So like some of the Xbox ones might be a little different than PlayStation ones and what have you.
Yeah. I do hate when they do that. It's like, just pick your, just make them all the same.
Yeah.
Anyways, Greg, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I'm once again being very classy. Hello, everybody.
More shitting
Welcome.
and peeing dogs?
No more peeing dogs. Exactly, Daniel. Very good. I have read a most stellar novel. It was a Star Wars novel, and it was apparently one of the first ones written after the first Star Wars movie. Not The Phantom Menace. It was A New Hope, of course. As we all know, New Hope Episode 4 came out before Phantom Menace Episode 1.
Question. How long will this accent continue?
It will continue until Daniel also agrees that the accent should stop.
Okay. Well, yeah, then definitely.
Not that it's bad, but
no. It's just intimidating, Greg. I just feel
it is. I feel so much less classier than you. I just feel like a redneck hillbilly.
Yeah.
Well, you should, Charles. I am very well educated, and I have read extensively, sir.
This week, at least. Right.
All right, I'm out of the accent.
Wait, Greg came back.
I read.
We traded some English guy for Greg.
Am I a trade up or a trade down?
We traded you and a player to be named later, so we don't know yet.
It's a different position, so it's hard to evaluate.
Oh, okay. I want all positions. I read Star Wars Splinter of a Mind's Eye. It was apparently, according to the foreword by George Lucas, it was apparently one of the first novels written after Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope. And I think you can kind of tell throughout it. I don't think the author, and I don't remember his name at this point, I don't have the book anywhere near me, but the author, you could definitely tell, didn't know where the characters would be going in the films, because he went very kind of romantic between Leia and Luke in the story.
Oh, man.
Luke meets up with Darth Vader, and apparently Darth Vader, I almost said duty. Darth Vader apparently has figured out who Luke is and has done some research on Luke. And the way they talk to each other, it's like Darth has no freaking clue that this is his son and everything.
Oh,
so
wow.
there's weird stuff like that. And when you first start off reading this book, you think it's going to go one way, and then it just kind of takes you down like a different tangent, and it doesn't even resolve what you thought the story was going to be to begin with, because it's a diplomatic mission. Leia is trying to bring this planet into the rebellion, but something happens to her Y-wing, and she has to pull down into this other planet, and Luke is kind of her bodyguard. He's in his X-wing, and he follows her down to the planet, and then there's some kind of mining operation that you find out later that has made this kind of electrical storm, so that kind of takes out both their space vehicles. So they both kind of crash land, and they find this mine. It's run by the Empire, and then so they need to find a vehicle to get to this meeting to bring in this other planet into the rebellion, and they kind of go off trying to find a vehicle. But then this lady finds them, who's like, "I'll help you find a vehicle if you help me get this jewel thing." And then they set off, and they're in this, it's a whole big jungle planet that can eat you up, and they're trying to avoid the Empire. They're trying to avoid the natural inhabitants of the planet. It was a good read. It wasn't great. It kind of falls into the common Star Wars fare for me, to be quite honest. It's not one of the top ones. My favorite of the Star Wars book has been the Darth Bane trilogy, just for kind of the information you get. And I think Darth Bane's kind of a badass Sith Lord. It was all right.
So for the Darth Bane trilogy, when does that take place? And
the Darth Bane takes place well before the Battle of Yavin, because that's how they have it laid out in the front of the Star Wars books. Let me pull out one of the books I have, because they have a whole thing in the front of Star Wars novels where they list where the books are in the timeline and everything, which is very convenient. So let me look that up real quick, because I have the book right here. The Darth Bane series apparently takes place 1,020 years before Star Wars: A New Hope.
Did you play that game, Knights of the Old Republic?
No, I did not.
Okay. Because I know that took place like thousands of years before Star Wars, which is interesting because like all the technology is the same, so that's... But
sometimes they'll take those video games and they'll transition into like a story, but I don't see anything about that kind of stuff in this particular book, unless this book is on the older side. So
I'm kind of getting into this whole reading thing again. For those Star Wars books, do you feel like if you can pick them up without like extensive knowledge of the entire franchise?
Yeah, because they definitely do the Marvel method approach of bringing you in and updating you with the characters and telling you what they're all about and whatnot. So they definitely do that. So if you don't even watch Star Wars, you could pick up a book and they'll kind of inform you what's going on, what's the setup on everything. So if you're coming in completely ignorant of the whole thing, you're going to be fine. But if you have read other Star Wars novels, if you watch the movies, it's kind of interesting to see the in-betweens and get some extra detail. Currently, I'm reading Star Wars Empire Strikes Back in the novelization form, and it's kind of interesting. I'm only partway through, but they kind of, every once in a while, they'll change a line here or there, because I got to the part where Han cuts open the Tauntaun, and you know the famous line that he says after that, of course.
It's hot in here?
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Yeah.
That is completely out of this book. He does not say that at all, which is kind of weird. But then it gets kind of interesting because they kind of give you a little bit more detail. Like that drone that came down and is searching the surface of Hoth. You don't really see what happens to it during the whole time when Han goes out looking for Luke and they stay in the tent in Tauntaun overnight. Apparently, it kind of hibernates itself overnight, and he gets buried by snow on top of this force field that has around it, and it kind of has it forms a nice dome of snow over the top. So as like little stuff like that, which I think kind of makes it interesting and kind of adds to the depth of the whole Star Wars mythos.
Does, instead of Luke saying, or Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father," does he go, "Luke, I am your baby daddy"?
I didn't get that far in the book yet, Dan. I'm still on Hoth for the time being.
I'm sorry. I should have said spoiler warning.
Damn.
Chuck, were you going to say something? I feel like I cut you off.
I had something in my head, but I didn't try to say it yet. But Craig, I missed what you said about when the Darth Bane stuff happened. It was 1,000 years. Was it before or after?
It was before A New Hope, because Darth Bane is the one that kind of sets up the he sets up the rule of two, and he sets up the basement level for rebuilding the Sith Lords. He kind of took down the old order of the Sith, and he kind of gets into just a little bit into him starting to rebuild it. I think the last book is where he kind of, spoiler alert, takes down the Sith.
Right. So does that also take place before The Dark Knight Rises? I'm just totally confused.
It takes place a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away from a Dark Knight.
A long, long time ago, yet somehow in the future.
Yes.
Was Darth Bane also born in the shadows?
Kind of. He worked in a mine. He was a miner, and he was big, huge, bulky dude. I don't think they really go, it's been a while since I read it, I don't think they go really too far back. I think they go into his years of mining, and I don't think they really mention much of his childhood.
Interesting.
Who is the one after him? Like, who is his apprentice?
Oh, they didn't get into that. They say that he. You guys are gonna pick a way to turn this on me. He
No,
picks.
it's okay.
He at the end of the third one, I believe he picks up a young girl, and she might be his apprentice. And I think he goes into a little bit further that she actually does, and I don't remember her name. And I think she's and I'm hoping I'm saying this right. I think she's a Twi'lek.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She, like the blue with the long kind of tails coming out of the top.
Like Ayla Sakura.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think she kind of comes in a little bit later. But like I said, it's been a while since I read it, so I'm a little foggy on that.
I now know how Chuck felt when we talked about Doctor Who, because I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are saying. It's a foreign language.
I will say I may have to check out one of those Star Wars novels one time, as much as I hate actual books. But I will say the Star Wars graphic novels are very interesting as well, especially like the Clone Wars stuff, and they get into all those different species and all the different Jedis, and you learn more about them and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I like to, when I'm reading the novels, I like to try and figure out and get a picture in my own head of how they're describing it, like how I think the creature would be, and then going on, there's a website called Wikipedia.
Oh yeah, I've spent some hours on that site.
Yeah, and so I'll look up and see if they have an actual picture of the creature or person.
Interesting.
Usually I'm way off base.
It's called Wikipedia?
Wikipedia, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, is it just for Star Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought it would be like the people creating things for books, and you have to... I had an idea there, and it didn't. Maybe it's worth $1 million. What's kind of interesting, though, it's like it's our 25th episode, and it's like the first time we really talked about Star Wars. It took this long.
We're saving it.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do like a special theme episode or something. I need to read some of the novels and stuff. I want to read more. It's like a goal of mine. I read one book, and I'm reading another one right now, too. So maybe we'll talk about that next week. Anything else, though, before we take a break here?
Nope. Nothing out of me.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Greg searched the data banks. No, nothing.
Nothing.
Alrighty. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about our top 5 movies that you have not seen, and I promise you Star Wars is not one of them. Or maybe. All right. We'll see you in a bit.
Every week on the In Session Film Podcast, you can expect to hear reviews on all of the latest movies, big films, small films, and everything in between. We'll also do top 3 segments relating back to our main review. We discuss all of the latest movie news and rumblings, as well as have movie series and other fun segments. And we always talk about the films that we're watching and why you should watch them or not watch them as well. If you want to learn more about the In Session Film Podcast, check us out online at InSessionFilm.com. You can hear our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, and so much more. In fact, you can listen to everything we have straight from our website. Again, that is InSessionFilm.com. Download our podcast, check us out, and come join us every week. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey, I'm Gary.
I'm Mike.
I'm Chuck.
And I'm Justin. Join the 4 of us every week on the internet's #1 and longest-running G.I. Joe podcast, What's on Joe Mind?
It's Joe news, reviews, and interviews like you've never heard them before, delivered right to your MP3 player.
Our guests include Jason Marsden, Kevin Michael Richardson, and Matt Yang King from G.I. Joe Renegades, Larry Hama, Robert Adkins, and John Barber from IDW Publishing, and many more from around the online Joe community.
Yeah, it's guys talking about Joe. Think of it as Joe Talk meets sports talk. And we make fun of Chuck.
Right, and hey, again?
Come on, Chuck. We're just kidding, kinda.
Sometimes Chuck makes fun of himself.
Right, and okay, seriously, this is just getting ridiculous now.
It's What's on Joe Mind, every week on the Geekcast Radio Network, InsidePulse.com, Stitcher Smart Radio, and iTunes. Download and listen today.
I suppose I still can't say something about Transformers, can I?
Good.
No. What about sports?
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's all right. All right, and welcome back. Like I mentioned, today we are making the unknown known as we're counting down our top 5 movies that you have not seen or probably even ever heard of. Before we went to break, we were talking a great deal about Star Wars. And my first one, I don't know how unknown it is, so it's actually the way I arranged my list. I'm starting with what I think is probably the most popular, and then ending with what I think is the least popular. My first one, I think this is probably going to get more and more popular as the year goes on, but I think there are a great deal of people that have not heard it or have not seen it, especially on Geekcast Radio. I seem like not many people talk about it. And that movie is Attack the Block. Have you guys seen Attack the Block?
Who's attacking what block? What?
Nope, never heard of it.
No. All right. Well, see.
Is this about Mario?
It is not it's not about Mario. It is, Greg. I think you would really, really dig this movie. Those in Nerdly that are listening on Nerdly probably know more about it because it is a British film.
Chip chip cheerio, boys! Hello.
Not so much. It starts. There's no one really big in it, but the reason I say that it is Star Wars based is because its main star is actually going to be a star of the upcoming episode 7. John Boyega, who was a star of this movie, will be one of the supposed Jedi in the upcoming Star Wars film. So if you want to get a good glimpse of what he has acting wise, definitely check out Attack the Block. And what it is about, it's about an alien invasion, and a young teen gang in South London basically stumbles upon like a meteor, and it actually ends up being this like alien monster, and they end up having to kind of attack, save their block from all these aliens that are suddenly invading. And it's really I wouldn't say it's super low budget, but it's really practical effects. It's like Goonies meets like Shaun of the Dead meets The Wire in a way.
I love Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it's not as spoofy as Shaun of the Dead, but it has a lot of great humor. The characters are all interesting. If you're a fan of science fiction, and you like kind of, I'd say like old school science fiction, like this, especially like 80s science fiction, I would highly, highly recommend Attack the Block. I cannot recommend it higher. It's a lot of fun. The design of the characters, the design of the aliens, it's really great. They're like puppets. It's very simple, but very effective. So, unfortunately, it's not really streaming anywhere. You can rent it on Amazon, but you can't stream it for free. But it's worth picking up, definitely. So, my number 5 was Attack the Block. I'll now move on over to Greg. What's first on your list?
Well, I have, for my number 5, I have something, I'm not sure if many people would consider it a movie. It's something from my childhood that's kind of got more of a nostalgia appeal to it than anything else, and I'm not sure how many people have actually seen it, but it kind of had that whole feel that I got from the Avengers when you had Captain America, Iron Man, all those characters coming together for the first time when they're fighting Loki in Germany. It kind of gave me that feeling when I was younger and wasn't as into comic books as I am now, and that is the cartoon All-Stars To the Rescue.
Well, you look like 3 fine lads. You know, I might have something here you'd like to try. Something to make you feel real good.
There's a million wild, wonderful ways to say no. No, sir.
Better learn a few and take them wherever you go.
No, thanks, no, sir.
If your pal said left you time, here's a practical reply. Go ahead, let's try spit right in his eye and say no. Those drugs are so boring. That works fine, cause the bottom line's for showing you say no. Now you could say beat it, get lost, get out of my face with that stuff. But that could be tactless. You may prefer cool, like this. Get to me later, okay? I've got too much homework. It's rough.
I'm late for my baseball game and I'll miss my ride.
My kid's tornado from a hamster died. There's no time to kill. So I'll catch you later. Like that guy will. Guess I'm allergic. And a good excuse is something you never outgrow. When your pal says, let's get wrecked. Go on, pushy, check, protect yourself. Get up and go. Be the first one on your block to say, forget it, Doc.
It's an animated feature. Apparently, it was distributed by McDonald's, and it was an educational story. I know those usually suck, but I really like this one because you've got a Muppet baby, Kermit the Frog. You've got some of the Smurfs, Winnie the Pooh,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Turtles, yeah. The Chipmunks, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Tigger, Alf, Slimer from the Ghostbusters, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. So it's got, and there's Garfield in there too. So it's got all these great classic icons from late 80s, early 90s that I really loved. But the plot is actually this kid's gets really into marijuana and stealing his dad's beer, and his sister is very concerned about him because apparently he steals her piggy bank, and so all these toys and stuff come to life as these characters and help her go find her brother and get him through his drug addiction and everything. So it's pretty cool. And they have a villain character that plays his kind of addiction through the whole thing. But it was just one of those films where it's like all these great characters coming to life that you never thought you would see come together in one place. So if you're looking for something that's a little fun and probably not going to take up all of your attention, I'd recommend Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue.
Man,
it's very classic.
Man, I forgot all about that. I do remember watching that in school, or they really tricked me as a kid because I don't even think it, like when I watched, I remember renting it from the library. Yes, I was that kid. Renting it from the library. It was, oh man, it was really cool seeing like the DuckTales with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh wow, man.
And they only had Michelangelo though, which is really weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was a cool one, so I guess Raph's actually really in the pot, so maybe he wouldn't. He wouldn't participate. I don't know. All right.
That sounds really awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out. I don't know why I've never seen that.
Really, I could imagine we watched this in grade school. I thought we did.
I'm sure I watched it in school too, but it's only 27 minutes, and I think they have it on YouTube, Chuck.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I'd try and look it up on YouTube first.
Yeah. All right, Chuck, what is your number 5?
Well, my number 5, I'm guessing you guys have never heard of this. Of course, Dan, I never know because you're the movie encyclopedia. So this one is called An Unfinished Life.
I have not heard of that.
It's from 2005, fairly new. Starred Robert Redford, Jennifer Lopez, and who else? Morgan Freeman. But basically, it's Jennifer Lopez's character Jean attempts to escape this abusive boyfriend by moving with her daughter to her former father-in-law's ranch in Wyoming.
So she's trying to get away from Morgan Freeman.
No, he's not.
Morgan Freeman have to hit a bitch?
Oh.
I love her fat ass.
Well, I don't know how I could top that, but onward we go. But the ex-father-in-law is Robert Redford. She was married to his son, who they were in a car accident together. She survived, his son didn't. And Robert Redford's character, whose name is Einar, which never heard that name before, but Einar hates her because she survived and his son didn't. And but he agrees to take her in for a time because she's kind of under duress. So Morgan Freeman also lives on the ranch. He's he's a longtime friend, and he's also a helper on the ranch and stuff, but he is recovering from a bear attack.
Wow.
He got mauled by a bear, and Einar was too drunk at the time of the attack, couldn't get the grizzly off him in time before he got really badly injured. So as you progress, Mitch kind of learns not to fear the bear anymore, and Einar tries to accept what happened to his son was not Jean's fault and everything, and he builds a great relationship with his granddaughter, who he didn't even know existed. And it's got some great scenes in it. I could put a clip or two up in the episode post, but basically at some point the abusive boyfriend shows up, of course, and we see Robert Redford absolutely kick his ass, and it is so gratifying. And then like Mitch finds himself face to face with the bear again for a second time. Robert Redford kicks some more ass, this time in a diner. But it's really like a great story with some fantastic like wilderness imagery and stuff. I'm pretty sure it's filmed in Wyoming, and terrific acting. I mean, Redford and Freeman are amazing together. Honestly, like probably two of the greatest actors of all time, in my opinion. Jennifer Lopez actually does a surprisingly good job. She's pretty good in this, and it's not an action movie. Don't like think it's that. It's definitely like a drama, but it's a terrific story with some intense scenes intermingled. So it's definitely worth the watch. It's called An Unfinished Life.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely never heard of that. So
Don't fear the black bear. Don't fear the black bear. Do.
This was a grizzly, much more terrifying.
Okay. Don't fear the grizzly.
See, that doesn't work as well. Yeah.
Except he's not as frightening as Morgan Freeman.
That's someone you should fear. I mean, he is the voice of God. Let's be honest.
At the end, he narrates it and says the bear was done in by the very bacteria that we've built up tolerance to. No, it's not a War of the Worlds crossover, but very good nonetheless.
Alrighty, next on my list, number 4. This one, I went back and forth with a few, but I ended up going with this one because this is one of my personal favorite films for a lot of reasons. First, it stars one of my favorite comics, Patton Oswalt. Any geek, I think, would appreciate Patton Oswalt's comedy. If anything, just look up his filibuster of Star Wars Episode 7 that he did for Parks and Recreation. It's a great clip. It's pretty amazing. The guy knows his stuff, and he's endlessly funny. In this movie, big fan, he plays a hardcore New York Giants fan.
I've heard of this movie. I have not seen it, but I have heard of this movie.
Yeah. Some may have, but another one I just like talking about because I think more people should see it. So hopefully people will go out and see it. Again, this is unfortunately not streaming anywhere. It is on Amazon for rent as well as iTunes. But like I mentioned, Patton Oswalt plays this New York Giants fan, but he's a little bit, I would say, mentally unstable, and he kind of gets into like how fandom, like kind of the dark side of fandom, and what it can lead to. He ends up like meeting one of the players that is a part of the team, and with this being a low budget indie, it's all obviously they don't really use any New York Giants stuff for real, and but he meets one of the players, and it doesn't go as well. And it kind of leads to all these issues. But he's also one of those people, I don't know, have you guys ever, Chuck, I'm pretty sure you do, but listen to like talk radio, sports talk radio?
Oh, yeah, every day pretty much.
And you get some of those people that call in and they're a little bit crazy. This is this guy. And he thinks he's like a lot more clever than he really is. And he gets this feud with this person from Philadelphia because Philadelphia is full of skull and villainy. They're the worst people in the history of the world. So, I mean, it gets that right. I think it gets that right. But no.
Plus, they hate the Giants.
Yeah. I should admit, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I am a New York Giants fan. So I could personally feel his pain.
Hey, baby. Let's go to my boy Paul in Staten Island. He always brings the leverage. What's on your mind, brother?
Hey, Sports Dog, how you doing? I'm just calling to say I can't wait for this Sunday when we finally shut these Philly clowns up once and for all. I can't tell you how sick I am of Philadelphia Phil and all these cheesesteak bozos going on about Brian Westbrook this and how we can't stop their passing game. Are you joking? You put the tiniest bit of pressure on McNabb. That guy crumbles like a cookie. Now, you guys may have put some points up against the Skins last week, and that's fine. But the G-men are a whole different story, my friend. You think you're going to throw for 388 yards with Quantrell Bishop in your face all day long? It's not easy hitting a receiver. It's not easy hitting a receiver laid out on your back. So listen up, Philadelphia Phil, and all the rest of you brotherly love jabronis who've been talking smack all week on this show. Get out your forks, because you're going to be eating your words big time.
I love his passion. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Sports Dog. You're the man.
But it's interesting, too, because he's a huge Giants fan. He goes, but he can't afford tickets, so he has to watch the game from the parking lot in the back of his car. He just works at like a toll booth. He has kind of a crappy job. It's just a really interesting film, good character study. Patton Oswalt is actually a really good actor. He's good in this. He's also really good in this movie, Young Adult. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. But any sports fan, it's like a sports movie that's almost kind of the opposite side of most sports films. So anyone who's ever, like I said, been a fan of sports or listened to talk radio about sports, there are a lot of jokes, I think, in there that you'll get. It's funny, but like darkly funny. So it's not, it's kind of a depressing movie, honestly, just because of the life he has to live and whatnot. So basically, if you're a sports fan, I would say even not a sports fan, check out Big Fan. Smartly written, darkly comedic character study that I can highly recommend, even if you're an Eagles fan. And I don't know why the Spawn of Satan would watch movies, but if you are, I think you'd even appreciate the movie like Big Fan. So I don't know. If you can't tell, I'm not a big fan of Eagles fans. I don't know why. Greg, before I go on tangent, what's next on your list?
Next on my list is another nostalgia movie for me. I think actually most of the movies on my list are. I'm not sure if you guys have heard it or not. It's got a huge, big-time producer that maybe you've heard of. It was produced by Steven... actually it wasn't. I thought it was produced by Steven Spielberg, but apparently it wasn't.
He produced. His name is on everything. So
no, I have it up actually. It was produced by Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, and Ronald L. Schwarry. But actually, I found interesting the screenplay has Brad Bird on it, who is the dude that did Incredibles. Pandemic? No, he did the Incredibles. He's done a Mission Impossible film, but the movie I'm talking about is Batteries Not Included.
I could have sworn Spielberg was on that. That's interesting.
Right? I thought he was too. I have it looked up on Wikipedia, and not Wikipedia, but Wikipedia.
I think I've heard you mention this before, but I have never seen it.
It's about this neighborhood where it's pretty much getting demolished to put up a whole bunch of skyscrapers. But there's one building left, and the tenants are all having their different struggles. There's an older couple where the wife has Alzheimer's, and she thinks it's back in the day, and she's always looking for her son, but apparently something happened to the son. I think he passed away or something in a war back in the day, and there's other tenants that are having their own difficulties. Well, they're trying to, this big businessman is trying to get the place torn down so he can get his skyscrapers built, but he can't purchase this one building because these people won't get the hell out of the way. So he sends in people to kind of wreck up the joint. So they've also got that struggle that they're going against. And so finally one night some aliens come down, and they're these little mechanical looking spaceship type things, but they're actually beings from different worlds, and they come down because they're going to have kids and everything. And when this all happens, it kind of turns around everybody's struggles and kind of makes everything all right. So it's one of those feel good movies. And even the guy that's trying to muscle them out of the building kind of has a change of heart. I don't think I'm giving away too much by revealing that. It's a very you kind of know what's going to happen type of film, but it was a movie that I loved from my childhood, and I wish it was kind of on the lips of more people nowadays. But if you haven't seen it, check out Batteries Not Included.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I saw it on Blockbuster all the time, and I think I maybe catch it on TV, but never watched it fully through. So very, very good choice. Chuck, what's next on your list?
Next up for me, number 4 is a Western. If you listen to some past episodes, you know I'm a fan of Westerns. I think we all are to some degree.
I lost my love and feeling.
Yeah, because you're overseeing the Rifleman at this point, right?
Oh, yeah. Rifleman, Bonanza, Gunsmoke.
I know. My mom watches Gunsmoke every single night. When I go to visit her, it's on every time. It's kind of funny.
God, you get 2 or 3 hours of that in one night.
Yeah. This one's an older Western, as most of them are, but this one is from 1972, and it was a John Wayne classic, and it's called The Cowboys.
You. Bob. You almost got him killed, you know that.
But I tried to tell you.
The hell you did.
I tried hard.
If you'd have been out in that water, we'd have heard you loud and clear.
I couldn't get the words out.
You could have if you'd have wanted to. You just didn't want to bad enough.
Before God, I tried.
Trying don't get it done. Fact is, you almost let your friend choke to death out in that river.
I'd rather die than done that.
And you're a liar.
It ain't my fault I stutter.
Listen to me, you whining little whelp. You're gonna stop that stuttering or get the hell out of here. You're gonna stop it or go home, do you hear me?
Son of a bitch.
What did you say?
You goddamn son of a bitch.
Say that again.
You goddamn mean son of a bitch.
Say it faster.
You goddamn mean dirty son of a bitch.
I wouldn't make it a habit calling me that, son.
I did it. Did you hear me? I did it. I did it.
Have you guys ever heard of this movie?
No, I've not.
I have not either.
Go figure, a Western beat called The Cowboys. But it's got John Wayne, and it has Bruce Dern, which I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with, but he was in some other Westerns.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seems like he's always good at playing a great bad guy.
Oh, The Cowboys. I think I know this one. Is it the one, I don't want to give it all away, but the one where he has to take care of all the kids and the cook's the black dude?
Yeah, I'll get into it a little bit.
Okay, I do know this one. I have seen it. This is an enjoyable one. Sorry.
This is a great movie, and it's definitely not your ordinary Western. Like, it's definitely a different spin on the classic genre, but it works to perfection in my opinion. I think the best way I could describe this movie is it's like a coming of age movie set in the Old West.
Nice.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we talked about before how we don't get a lot of those movies anymore, so if you're looking for that sort of thing, this one might be a good one to go to. Basically, you have John Wayne's character, Will Anderson. He loses his ranch hands right as he's about to embark on this cattle drive, and pretty much has nowhere to turn, so he hires a group of young boys from the nearby schoolhouse to be his cowboys on this 400-mile cattle drive.
That was clearly a different time, because you cannot do that now. I'm going to show up to the local school and then take kids 400 miles. So don't mind me.
You're cool with that, right, Teach? Yeah. Definitely different time. But,
with the stirrups. I mean, it's a little weird. But...
It's really cool. Like, the kids kind of range in age from, like, I don't know, maybe like 10, 12 years old. I think the oldest one's like 17 or 18, something like that.
Oh, and fun fact about one of the kids. I'm not sure if you're going to say this or not, Chuck. Do you know a fun fact?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure one of them was an actor that I've seen in other stuff as he got older, but I'm not sure which one.
Yes, one of the actors actually grew up, and he was one of the main guys in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes, that's him, yeah.
Yes.
I knew I recognized him somewhere.
It's not the one that goes on to play the doctor in ER. It's the other one.
Yeah. Now that you mention that, yeah. Because I was looking at him and I'm like, I freaking know that guy from somewhere, like when he gets older. But
the guy who played Lizzie McGuire's father? Fuck me for knowing that.
I do not
good, because I have no idea.
Hey, I taught around that time. That's why I know.
Sure. Yeah. You subscribe to the Disney Channel. But anyway, it's really funny because the kids are actually really funny, and for such like young ages, they got some really great actors. Some of them can't ride a horse that well, so they kind of have to learn really quick, and they continue along the cattle drive, and they kind of turn into men as they go along, and they learn to stand up for themselves and to be tough when things are hard. And there's a particular scene where this is probably my favorite scene in the movie, or one of them at least, where they get into the liquor from the wagon one night while John Wayne's character, Mr. Anderson, and the cook, while they were sleeping. The kids found the liquor in the wagon. They went off into the woods, had a campfire and they were having a grand old time. It's absolutely hilarious. They start cursing and really talking about grown-up stuff, and like you just never expected it up to this point in the movie, and it's just this great moment of levity. And then you kind of see like John Wayne and the other guy wake up, and they're kind of looking on from the bushes and stuff, and they're kind of laughing for a little bit before they break it up. But really, really great scene. But
my favorite is when they go to the prostitute.
yeah, there's a lot of great scenes in that movie.
Wait, was that real, or was that Greg being Greg?
No, they actually find a group of prostitutes. They do.
Sorry,
it's not.
This is factual.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's a really, really fun movie, especially if you like westerns. But even if you don't, honestly, it's a fun time. You get to see John Wayne later in his prime, and you actually get to see him do something in this movie that he very rarely does in other films. Yep. So you definitely check out The Cowboys. I think, Dan, since you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure you would love this movie, because I know you like those coming-of-age movies too. And it's really great watching all these kids go on this cattle drive and grow up and become men, and it's a really cool movie.
They all sleep with the prostitutes.
Well, there you go. But yeah, the westerns are the one genre I think I probably need to catch up with the most. I mean, I do love a lot of westerns like Bush Cassidy, Once Upon a Time in the West, and a few, but a lot of John Wayne stuff I need to get into. All right, moving on to my next one. And I mentioned with Attack the Block that's kind of like a Shaun of the Dead, and a little bit, but this one's a lot more like Shaun of the Dead.
It's Shaun of the Dead.
It's Shaun of the Dead. It's Hot Fuzz.
I love Hot Fuzz.
No, not really, but I love that movie too. No, my next one is a movie which is currently streaming on Netflix. It's called Grabbers. And
I've seen that one too.
Nice, yes. This movie came out last year, so it's relatively new. And again, I didn't get much buzz at all last year. I heard some people talk about it, but I kind of came and went. So I wanted to talk about it. And for those that are unaware, it's, again, another like alien invasion movie. I feel like I have a theme going, and I didn't even intend to. But basically, an alien kind of invades this, I believe it's Scottish, but I don't know. I apologize if I'm wrong. But it's this small island in the United Kingdom. And this alien comes, and it's kind of like an alien like from the movie Aliens in a way, where it kind of grabs and sucks on your face in a little bit. But what they find out is that it's also impervious to people that are drunk. So basically, to fight back against this alien, they have to kind of get the town drunk to kind of like fight against it and stop it from taking over. So yeah, it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Shaun of the Dead. A little more darker. I don't think it's as good as Shaun of the Dead, but it's certainly a good time. The special effects I thought were really good for such a small budget film. The characters are really strong, and a lot of the set pieces are great. But I don't really have much to say about it. It's a relatively short film. It's kind of like we talked about like B-movie science fiction last week with Toxic Adventure. It's not like a schlocky movie, like overly violent by any means, but it's kind of like a, I don't know, perhaps how you could say maybe like a Twilight episode, just a little bit more comedic.
Hi, Tim.
We don't mention Twilight on this.
Not Twilight. I'm sorry. Ow. It's like
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone episode.
I knew what you were talking about.
I should be punished for that deeply. But yeah, it's like a Twilight Zone. So I would highly recommend that. Like I said, it's currently streaming on Netflix. Greg, you said you see it. Did you like it as well, or am I?
I did enjoy it as well. It was really funny, and it definitely was hitting that B-rated science fiction, but it felt kind of intentional that they were doing it that way too. So, and I agree with your statement that it kind of resembles Shaun of the Dead. It's Shaun of the Dead with aliens.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
What was that called again, Dan?
It's called Grabbers.
Grabbers.
Yeah, just remember that part where he said grabbing and sucking on someone's face, because I was thinking of grabbing and sucking on something else when you said that.
I'll have to keep my feelers out for Grabbers.
All right, moving on to Greg. What is your number 3? I guess we're not necessarily ordering these, but whatever's next on your list, you know.
Well, I think I'll put for my number 3, it's Alfred Hitchcock movie. I don't think many people have heard of it, even though it's got a very well-known old school actor, Jimmy Stewart. It's called Rope.
Nice.
If you haven't seen this, it actually just essentially takes place in one room for the entire movie. They have a little bit at the beginning where it takes place outside, and that's where you catch your glimpse of Hitchcock making his appearance in the film. But then it kind of goes inside, and it's these 2 college kids that are having a dinner party, but they have killed one of their friends, and they're going to see it, like, try and get away with it. They have the rope that they murdered the kid with on them and around, and I believe that they have the body in a cabinet in the room, and they're going to see, like, if they can get away with it type of situation. The one kid was very into it, and the other kid is starting to regret their decision to do this, and if doesn't want to go this far with it, he wants to just kind of like bury the body, get it away, and hide all the evidence. But this other guy is trying to play games the whole time, and it just really raises the suspense level the entire way through. Of course, Alfred Hitchcock is the master of suspense, and you have Jimmy Stewart in there who's playing one of their favorite teachers who kind of gave them the idea, even though he would never do it. He kind of gave them the idea behind why they murdered their friend and everything. And so they're trying to see if they could make it past this teacher without him knowing that they have committed murder, even though the one guy is kind of throwing out a little bit of clues here and there, kind of. But it's just very suspenseful. It's my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie, and I really love Alfred Hitchcock's movies, all of them that he's done. This one is by far my favorite, even over Vertigo and ones like that. But since it's not well-known movies, I think this is one of his lesser-known movies, and this one's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's one I've heard of, but I have not seen, so a great recommendation. I've heard a lot of great things, too. And I think a lot of it's done with, like, we've talked previously about, like, doing long continuous shots, and I know The Rope is rather famous for a lot of them, so.
Well, they do a little tricks of, they make it look like one giant shot for the entire movie, essentially, except they're use different things to kind of pan in and out, but it makes it look like it's just one continuous shot.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing what Hitchcock was able to do. Like, and there are things like we take for granted because of technology today, but stuff that was never really even transitioning and zooming in for a lot of his films. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, he's amazing. And I still have to see, they made a movie about his life that I still have to check out, where Sir Anthony Hopkins plays Alfred Hitchcock.
They actually made two. They made that one, and HBO made one too. And the guy who plays Hitchcock is the guy who plays Zola in the Captain America movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he plays Hitchcock as well. So, yeah, I haven't heard good things about either of them, but I've not seen them, so can't really tell you.
Well, I want to see him anyway because I'm a big Hitchcock fan.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Chuck, what is next on your list?
Next up for me, my number 3. This is a very creepy movie, and it's probably one that you guys have heard me talk about because I've been kind of promoting this movie and bragging it up to a lot of people. But it is it's not a horror flick, but it's more of like a thriller. It's from 2002, and it's called Mothman Prophecies.
Oh, I'm gonna go to the bathroom or something while you're talking about this, Chuck. This movie
it is that
creeps me the fuck out.
Yeah.
It is the one horror movie that I hate to watch. So I'm going to go to the bathroom while you guys talk about this. Like, seriously, I'm going to go to the bathroom.
You could stay and you'd probably still go to the bathroom.
No, because I have to get up like really early because I'm making a brisket, and it's probably going to be dark out when I'm going to go out there to start up and everything. I don't need to hear this before I go out there. So I'm going to the bathroom. Type in the bottom when you guys are done with this, and I'll put my headphones back on. I will be back later. Bye.
Greg has left the building. Anyways, I have not seen Mothman Prophecy, so what is it about, Chuck?
Well, surely you've heard me talk about it. Cause
I've heard you talk about it.
I do tend to brag it up to a lot of people. It stars Richard Gere, Will Patton, too, who I really like as an actor. It's got a couple other people with some smaller parts, but like I said, it's not really like a horror flick. It's not like a gory, bloody thing. It doesn't have a lot of those, jump out of your seat moments, but it's the kind that like really gets in your head and gives you goosebumps the entire time. Super eerie and everything. And like Greg alluded to, you want to be sure to watch with the lights off because it really sets the mood for this. Adds to the creepiness. It's creepy, but it's like a rush creepy. Like when you're done with it, you're like happy you watched this movie.
Part of me wants to tell Greg we're done already, just so it gets on too soon.
I'm gonna leave this recording on his voicemail, so he has to listen to it. He'll just hang up. But basically, it's about Richard Gere plays this guy John Klein, who is a reporter, and along with his wife is involved in a car accident. She stays alive for some time, but she ends up not making it, and obviously Richard Gere's character survives. And before she dies, she mentions seeing something strange like out the car window before they crashed, and she ended up drawing several eerie pictures of a moth-like creature and this notebook and stuff in the hospital. And so he thinks it's weird, but he doesn't think much of it. So one night, a couple of years later, or maybe it's a year later, something like that, he finds himself driving from DC to Richmond for this story. I don't know if it's like an interview or something like that. But instead of ending up in Richmond, he winds up in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is about 400 miles away from DC, so like a 6-hour ride. And he leaves at 1 o'clock and he gets there at 2:30 in the morning. So he travels a 6-hour trip in an hour and a half. And his car breaks down. He walks to the closest house, and it's owned by Will Patton's character. And stunningly, he opens the door with a gun, it's a shotgun. And he says that this is the third night in a row that John Klein has showed up at his door. And it just boggles your mind because you can see like the confusion on Richard Gere's face. Like he's really great in this part. And obviously he's never been to this place before that he knows of because he doesn't drive out there ever. He's from Washington. But he gets a ride with a local female cop and starts talking to her. And she said like a lot of strange reports have been coming in from the locals who she's basically known almost her whole life, and she completely trusts them. She trusts their word and everything. And so he starts like his reporting instincts kick in. He starts interviewing some of these people, and he finds a connection with the same Mothman creature that his wife was referring to. People have drawings. It's like the exact same drawings. The things they're describing are like the same thing. So he ends up forming a friendship with Gordon, who is Will Patton's character, and weird stuff continues to happen in the town, especially to Gordon. And this John Klein finds himself like literally on the brink of insanity. Like it's driving him nuts, the things that are happening, and he's being taunted by this voice that calls him on the phone and stuff like that. He has no idea who it is. So he's trying not to let this like paranoia and insanity overtake him. And the great part about this movie, and the really creepy part, is that it's based on a true story of the Silver Bridge collapse in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 1960s. And there were a series of strange sightings of a Mothman-type creature in the weeks leading up to that tragedy. It's well documented. You can Google it, and there's tons of eyewitness accounts and everything, and that's creepy in and of itself, just like Googling and reading that stuff. But like I said, it's a great thriller. It literally will keep your undivided attention the entire time. Like you will be on the edge of your seat wanting to know what happens. And I really love this movie. Like, this one combined with my other top two, I had really trouble time trying to order them and everything because I really love this movie, but would highly recommend it, especially if you're into like the creepy thriller type movies.
All right.
Greg,
it's pretty effective when someone has to leave the room and not talk about it.
So how do we get them back now?
You done?
We are done, Greg. You are safe.
Okay, thanks.
Anyways, Chuck, you were saying about Mothman. No, I'm just joking.
So then he comes in and he looks in the window now.
All right, so going next on my list, we're actually kind of moving here pretty quickly. We're already down to number 2, and this one I actually moved back and forth with the last one because I wasn't sure, but this one also has a big Star Wars connection. I don't know if you guys know this, but did you know that the climax in Star Wars, the original New Hope, was actually based upon a real-life battle in World War II?
No, they had dogfight scenes were based off of movies from that war movies of that time.
Yeah, actually, one specifically a great deal. And
I didn't know they had TIE fighters back in World
War II. It was weird. It was they did, and Darth Vader. It was weird. And yeah, and a guy named Han from Germany who shot first. But anyways, yeah, it's actually based upon this mission, and this movie that I'm talking about was about that mission. And the movie's called The Dam Busters. It's a classic World War II film. It's from the 1950s, and it's about this mission in World War II where there were these German bridges, but they were too strong to bomb from up top in the air. Like, just this is back when our bombs could only go, straight down. So bombing them that way was ineffective, and it didn't do any damage. They were too strong for that. But they were weaker on like their front surface, their face surface. So they came up with this technique. There are these bombs that they're called the bouncing bombs. They basically drop them in the water and then they bounce like a basketball until finally hitting the bridge.
See, are you there? Okay, leader. You can go right in. I'll fly across the dam as you make your run and try and draw the flag off you. Okay, thanks, leader. Stand by, everyone. We're going in.
I saw a recreation of this on the History Channel. It was like some kind of engineering show, and they actually were like recreating that scenario with planes and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the mission itself is rather fascinating, and what's like Greg was mentioning, a lot of the dialogue, and I honestly didn't realize it at the time, but as they were talking and they're going through this mission, I'm like, a lot of this dialogue feels very familiar, like just the way they're saying the code names, and literally almost word for word. It is the same dialogue in the climax of what we're in Star Wars. They take a lot of the code names, a lot of the, red leader, blue leader, a lot of that is taken right from this movie, like almost word for word. So, and again, it's based upon that real life mission.
Is one of those people also named Porkins?
It was weird. Yeah, they had this really fat guy, and he would always be, I don't know, he barely fit in the plane. But I mean, the movie itself.
The plane's going down. I didn't even get hit. What the hell happened?
He was the bouncing bomb.
That's how they made it work. He held on, like Doctor Strangelove style. I mean, the movie itself is not. I wouldn't call it one of the best war movies of all time, but I just think the mission itself is rather fascinating. Its connection with Star Wars is really, really cool. And this is also streaming on Netflix, and it's like one of those World War II movies that never gets talked about, but has had a huge influence, obviously, on science fiction. So if you're a Star Wars fan, definitely best advise checking it out. And if you're a fan of World War II dramas or World War II films, especially those like aviation-based, it's a must-watch. It centers mostly on how they came up with the process. The actual climax, the actual mission, it's probably only like 20 minutes or so. But it's a really interesting story and how it all works. Like, Chuck, with you being an engineer, I'm sure you would just enjoy watching that process and how it came about.
Oh, yeah.
So that is my number 2. Greg, on to you. And I'm assuming your next one is Mothman Prophecies. Is that correct?
No, but it does have something to do with Star Wars. It's Santa Claus the movie. That has a lot to do with Star Wars, I think. And no, it's not the frickin' Tim Allen movie. It does not have an E at the end of Santa Claus, all right? It's not that one.
It's not as good as that one, huh?
I think this one is way better than the Tim Allen one. When I think of Santa Claus, I think of this movie, Santa Claus, and the representation of it. It gives Santa Claus whole kind of backstory, how he kind of got started, and then kind of a situation that he has going during quote unquote present day, because it's set back in like the 70s, maybe early 80s. But when I think
we got a lot of that backstory for Santa Claus in the claymation cartoon.
I know, but I love the claymation. Is
this the same
ones.
Canon?
Is this
no, it's not the same.
Is this
canon,
gonna
no.
screw up the Santa Claus timeline, like for me?
Is this the new? Is this the new 52 of Santa Claus movies?
No, it is not.
This is the ultimate universe of Santa Claus.
This is what I think the classic Santa Claus is, and this is where I get my representation of Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
Yes, for me at least. For me, it apparently got really bad ratings back in the day, but I thought it was really great. It's got the two more known actors in it. I'm not sure if you guys are going to know one of them, but it had John Lithgow and Dudley Moore.
Nice. That's a combination.
Yeah.
Which one played Santa Claus?
Neither of them. John Lithgow played the villain.
Oh God.
His acting kind of is a little off at some points.
And then he went on to make Harry and the Hendersons. So.
And then, he kind of goes from extremes apparently, because he plays opposite kind of with Dudley Moore, who's an elf, who kind of gets into a situation where he kind of takes on a leadership role for Santa Claus and immediately kind of has something bad happen, and so he kind of walks away, even though nobody's really told them that they all hate him. He just thinks they do. So he kind of goes to New York City and tries to do good by those guys and try and get back in their good graces by doing something good on his own. And unfortunately, he kind of gets with John Lithgow in a whole business proposition, and John Lithgow is trying to take advantage of him. And there's this whole thing with Santa Claus is trying to find him, but in the meantime, he finds these two kids that have found each other, and it's a kid kind of romantic relationship. They're kind of interested in each other, and maybe like in a couple of years they'd start to date. But the one's a homeless boy, and the girl kind of finds him, and it's very good-hearted and takes care of him. And Santa Claus notices that, and he kind of hangs out with these two kids. So it's a lot of fun. There's kind of a little bit of a Willy Wonka element to it, which if you watch, you'll definitely pick up on. I think this was done after Willy Wonka, but it's one of my favorite classic holiday movies, which is very hard to find on DVD. I believe I haven't really seen it. I have a VHS tape here that is like really, really bad. I think I found it on Netflix at one point. So if you're going to see it, I'd recommend finding it on Netflix. I think it's on there, pretty sure.
So is it like a comedy, or is it more of a straight drama, or?
Oh, no, it's definitely got some comedy in there, because it's got Dudley Moore. There's a little bit of singing with the elves, and they're kind of like chipper people for the most part. But it's got John Lithgow and Dudley Moore, so of course there's a little bit of humor to it.
Awesome. All right. Chuck, on to you. What is your number 2?
Number 2 for me, I'm pretty sure you guys haven't heard of this one, but I could be wrong. And this also is the only movie on my list that is on Netflix. So, but that's okay, because if you only see this movie out of my list, then I would be a happy guy, because this is a very, very riveting movie, and you will definitely walk away satisfied. This is from 1996. It's called The Ghost and the Darkness.
All right, you listen while I talk, because you got a question needs answering. Will I pull this trigger?
You don't know all that has happened here.
He will pull the trigger, Abdullah.
The devil has come to Sabo.
Oh, you're right. The devil has come to Sabo. Look at me. I am the devil.
Never heard of it.
I have not.
Dan?
No, I have not seen it.
I am surprised, Dan. You have not heard of most of the movies tonight here.
I know. I am.
You're
stumping the Schwami here.
Yeah, I know. He's the biggest movie guy out of the three of us.
I've heard of The Ghost and Darkness. I have not seen it.
Well, it's got 2 pretty good actors in it. It's got Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas. And it's set in 1898 Africa. John Patterson, who is played by Val Kilmer, is a civil engineer. So I have some ties to this movie. He's a civil engineer for the British Army, and he's sent to Africa to build a huge railroad bridge. It was around the time that they were really expanding the railroads over there, and he gets to the camp, and there's all this hysteria about lions that keep attacking their camp, and they kind of kill some of the workers one by one. They drag them off into the wilderness, and they find their like mauled bodies and everything, and usually not much left to them and stuff like that. So everybody in this workers camp is kind of freaked out. Val Kilmer comes in, and on his first day there, he shoots a lion, and he earns like everyone's respect immediately for this, because his first day there, he marches in, he takes care of the problem. Like, that's exactly what they sent him to do, like get the bridge done no matter what it takes. The only problem is it was the wrong lion. A couple weeks later, the camp was attacked again, and over the course of a couple of months, as they try to hunt these lions and kill them unsuccessfully, about 30 of his men are killed. And the railroad company finally brings in a famous hunter by the name of Charles Remington of Remington Firearms. And he is played by Michael Douglas.
Hank Pym.
Yeah. Ant-Man, trying to fight a lion. So the lions are still continuing to kill men in the camp. They're still unsuccessful in their hunts. And finally it gets to the point where the workers have just had enough. They jump on the train, they head back the other direction on the tracks. And Patterson, with the help of his personal aide and Charles Remington, have to kill these 2 lions that have been terrorizing the camp if the workers are ever to come back and finish this railroad bridge. So this is based on a true story also. If you Google Man-Eaters of Savo, Savo is Tsavo.
And don't forget to put that in as well.
Yeah.
You have some different results if you forget that part.
For sure. But yeah, if you Google that, there's a lot of material on these attacks. It's pretty well documented. And it's believed that over the course of the whole encounter, about 130 men were killed by these lions. And they claim that somehow the lions killed 1 or 2 in the beginning by accident or something, and they just got a taste for human blood and they just craved it. It's very rare, but it's been known to happen from time to time in history. Like certain cats get a taste for humans and they're labeled a man-eater. But this movie is absolutely incredible. I mean, the acting's spectacular. It's really great drama. It's got super intense and suspenseful action scenes. I mean, some of the ways that people get attacked by lions and like they're just dragged off, it's like terrifying. super, super suspenseful. And it really doesn't matter what type of movies you're into. I'm pretty sure you'll walk away from this one satisfied for sure. I would definitely recommend The Ghost and the Darkness. And actually, a fun fact, a lot of the people in the camp and some of the locals that lived in that area believed that the lions weren't real, that they were just kind of a spirit or a fairy tale or something. So they named the two lions The Ghost and the Darkness. So that's where the name of the movie comes from.
Interesting. I've not. Yeah, that's actually been a movie like recommended for me from Netflix. It's like, you should watch this, and I have not. So apparently they know what they're talking about.
Netflix.
I'll do what I want. You don't tell me what to do.
I had a hard time not putting this one number one. This movie is awesome. I cannot say enough good things about it.
So maybe with tomorrow being off, maybe we'll check that movie out and let you know what I think of it next week. So very cool. All right. So actually, I am on the last one. I mentioned earlier that I'm a big fan of crime. But like I mentioned, I actually like the crime genre. And I feel like this is going to be probably my biggest movie snob pick. I try to mix my list up of films that are kind of all over the different spectrum. And this one is a French film, so I know that probably cuts out a lot of people. But it's a movie that I think a lot of people haven't really talked about. Even people that I know that are really into like foreign films and this type of film. Like I kind of came and went, and for American audiences, even like the awards and stuff like that, no one's really talked about it. And it's a movie called Police, and it's spelled Polisse. And the way I describe it, it's kind of like if you've seen Law and Order SVU, that focuses on like child crime and sexual assault. These detectives do the same thing, but they're French detectives, but it's done with like the sensibilities of The Wire. It's something I really enjoy, and it goes to these different characters and just the mental torment they face, the fact that they have to deal with these really hard cases of kids getting abused, and how often they're in situations where they can tell something bad is happening, but they're powerless to really do anything about it. A journalist comes and kind of starts interviewing all these different people. And it's really interesting, too. Like, what I like about foreign films at times is that you kind of get a window into what another country looks like and how they handle things. And it's good in that aspect, too. But it is a very devastating movie. It is a tough watch just because of obviously the subject matter. But I really think it's a brilliant movie. It's one of the, I was completely moved by it. It was, I think, beautifully shot, well acted, a real gem that no one is at all talking about and really came and went, like I mentioned. It made my top 10 that year. I think 2012, that was number 9 or so on my list. And like I mentioned, no one's really talking about it, so I really wanted to mention it. Again, it's not for everyone. If you're not into serious drama or you hate subtitles, probably going to have to skip it. It is currently available.
Damn, I have to read?
You do, I know.
Who does that?
I know. People hate it. For the entire movie, they speak an entire different language in France. Those jerks. But it's available on Netflix, so like I said, if you like crime, if the idea of seeing the storylines of SVU done with a more subtle approach, I would say check it out. But make sure you have a teddy bear or something very pleasant to go to afterwards, because you will feel very down after it. So that's my number 1, Police. All right. So, Greg, your moment of truth. What is last on your list?
It's one of my favorite movies from back in the day. I'm not sure if many people have heard of it or not. And here's a little fun fact. You guys are going to love this fun fact. It was the first movie time first time I've seen a pair of boobs. It was from this movie.
So that's what started it.
Yes, this is the movie that started it all, people.
Damn this movie.
Is it that movie Heavyweights? And it was man boobs?
No, it was not the movie Heavyweights. I do enjoy that movie. It stars Michael J. Fox. It's called Doc Hollywood.
Hey.
Guten Abend, Herr Doktor.
Yeah. Right.
Wait. Hold your horses, Doc. Now, what would if I walked in the middle of a hernia operation, see some poor gentleman guts all over?
You killed my car?
I resent that.
That car was my life, Melvin. That car was my baby.
You want me to stop now? I could put it in some boxes, ship it out to Hollywood for you. No skin off my nose.
I have not seen it. Wow.
Oh, it's so good. If you love Michael J. Fox, this is definitely a great movie to check out.
I thought you were going to say if you love boobs. This is
well, if you do love those as well, it's definitely a great movie to check out. She's definitely showing them off. Julie Warren.
Michael J. Fox boobs?
No, not Michael J. Fox boobs. He wakes up in the morning and he kind of dreams of this lady coming out of a lake, and then he kind of wakes up and then he goes over to the lake that was pictured in his dream, and the lady comes out exactly like the dream, all shirtless, water flying down her. It was awesome. So yeah, it's Michael J. Fox. He's going to be a plastic surgeon. He's got to go out to the West Coast to get a plastic surgery job. He's got an interview at a hospital that he really wants to get in. So he's driving his way out to California. He gets a little lost, has an accident, and he kind of gets stuck in this town because they have an older doctor there that they think is going to die soon. So they all kind of try and make him stay by setting up kind of phony things, like he of course gets pulled in by the police for hazardous driving, and his car is down for a long time at the mechanics because they can't find the parts that he needs. He has to do community service, so they kind of set him up at the hospital and everything. So in the meantime, they're trying to get him to stay, but all he wants to do is go out west. But then he kind of falls in love with the ambulance driver, who has a very male name, but she is definitely not male in any way possible, and that is Lou, played by Julie Warner. And so they kind of go out on dates, and he's trying to convince her that he's good and that she should come with him to California, but she wants to stay with her kid where they're at, and eventually he gets out of there, and I'll leave the rest up to you guys to watch to see if he stays or if he comes back or not. But another fun cast member, I believe this is an early, I'm not sure if it was one of his first or not, but it's also got Woody Harrelson as kind of a support role. It's also got Bridget Fonda as well. So it's a great cast. It's got the one of the doctors from MASH as well, and his name is not coming to me at the moment.
Alan Alda.
No, not Helen Alda. He's the one that played Charles Winchester the Third.
Oh, I don't know.
And I just found out, I brought up the Wikipedia page. Apparently, there's a thing about the movie Cars. Apparently, some people think that the movie Cars has plagiarized this movie.
Well, I can see that.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting. And apparently, this one did really well as opposed to the Santa Claus the movie. This one did really well. It's got a 74% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and out of the budget of $17 million, made pretty close to $55 million box office.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it came out August 2nd, 1991. I'd really check that one out. That's one of my favorites. It was actually, I thought of this one because it was actually on TV and my mom was watching it, and I haven't seen it in forever. And it's not a really well-known Michael J. Fox film, but he is, of course, awesome as always. So.
Alrighty. Chuck, you loved your number 2, so I'm really wondering how great your number 1 is. So what is last on your list?
Well, this one is, like I mentioned, it was a really tough decision between my 1 and 2. I could probably switch it next week if I redid this, but this is a martial arts movie, which I'm a big fan of fighting movies. Not so much like the older like samurai films or stuff like that you've talked about, Dan, but more like the modern fighting movies and even like some of the ones in the 80s and stuff. But this is from 2006, a little bit newer. It's called Undisputed 2, Last Man Standing. Anybody heard of that?
I have. I've not seen it, but we've talked about this movie a few times off air.
Yeah, I think I recommended it to you even, because I know you like some martial arts movies now and then. Basically, it's a martial arts movie with one of the best in the business, and that's Scott Adkins, who has done tons of martial arts films, both as an actor and a stuntman. One thing you might know him off the top of your head was he was Weapon 11 in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I wouldn't share with too many people. But that's the guy. Crazy martial artist with ridiculous moves in real life. So, like, a lot of these stunts for the film were done by him. He didn't have a stand-in. He's really, really impressive martial artist. I've watched some YouTube videos of him in other movies and some behind-the-scenes things, like when he's doing fight choreography and stuff, and this guy's incredible. It also has Michael J. White, who was Black Dynamite, of course. And he was in some other stuff too. He actually was in the Arrow TV show. He played the Bronze Tiger. But he's absolutely jacked in this movie. This guy is massive. And he plays a U.S. boxing champion named George Chambers. It's the same name, because I mentioned this is Undisputed 2. There is a first one that stars Ving Rhames and Wesley Snipes, but to me it's not nearly as good. The sequel actually is better, much better than the first one in my opinion. But he has the same name as the boxer in the first movie, but different actor. Ving Rhames played it in the first movie, but basically this boxer goes to Russia to film a commercial, and he's framed for drug possession and thrown in an extremely tough and violent Russian prison. And there's an underground fighting league within this prison organized by the warden and the Russian mafia. So, like, there's a lot of money being transferred back and forth every week for the betting on some of these films. And Adkins plays Yuri Boyka, who is this tough as nails fighter, and he wins every single fight, like, super easily. And because he wins every fight, the warden is losing a lot of money, so he needs to bring in Chambers to actually give him a challenge, since he's a heavyweight boxing champion. He thinks maybe that he can hang with him. So leading up to the climax of the movie, which is of course the fight, there's two fights in the movie between them, but along the way there's it's a tale of like two very large egos just trying to kind of intimidate each other, but it's not like annoying. It keeps you fascinated, and you'll find yourself cheering for Michael J. White's character, George Chambers, pretty early on in the movie. And if you like fighting movies or martial art movies or anything, like, you have to watch this. The fighting is spectacular. It gets a little bit over the top at a select few moments, but I think it's like tastefully done. The choreography is amazing, and it's just a pleasure watching the sheer talent of these guys, and especially Scott Adkins. It's just not enough good things I could say about it, like my other ones, but this is a very good movie, highly recommended.
I think they made a third one too, didn't they? Am I crazy?
Yes, they did, and Scott Adkins reprises his role as Boyka, and that one's pretty good as well too. I think I like 2 a little bit better, but 3 is very good as well, and it's definitely better than the first one.
Is it better than Spawn? Michael J. White's also classic film from the 90s.
Oh yes, it is much better than Spawn. I'm not a big Spawn fan at all, but
that movie is pretty awful. So
yeah,
you'll be doing yourself a favor by not seeing it. But yeah, I need to check that out. And you said that's not available streaming or anything like that?
No, I don't think it's available on Netflix. I checked today, but I think it is. It's available on like YouTube if you pay like $2 or $3 or whatever it is, or maybe it's on like Amazon or something like that. But
okay, interesting.
I actually got the DVD from a closeout sale at Blockbuster, so I was lucky enough to find it. But
I remember when they existed.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? Speaking of martial arts films, have you ever seen the Raid or?
No, I've not seen that.
Okay, I got to show you that, because I think if you're a fan of martial arts or action movies, that is a pretty well made one. So.
Nice.
The sequel came out this year too, which I thought it's a little bit different. I don't think it's as good, but it's still really well made.
Cool.
But I think we maybe just go around and go down our top 5s real quick. We don't have to say much about them. Just a quick refresher before we get into our final segment. So my number 5 was Attack the Block, and then big fan. And my number 3 was The Dam Buster. I'm sorry, my number 3 was Grabbers, and my number 2 was The Dam Busters, and my last one was Police, again spelled Polisse, because that's how you spell it when you want to be pretentious, I guess. I don't know. Greg, what you want to run down your top 5 real quick?
Sure. Number 5 was Cartoon All-Stars, and then number 4 was Batteries Not Included. Number 3 was Rope. Number 2 was Santa Claus, Not with an E, the movie.
It's a long title.
Number 1 was Doc Hollywood, if you want to check out some Greg's First Boob action.
Oh, man. I will never be able to watch that movie and not feel really creeped out. All right, Chuck, your top 5.
My top 5 was An Unfinished Life. Number 4 was The Cowboys. 3 was Mothman Prophecies, Greg's favorite. Number 2 was The Ghost and the Darkness. And number 1 was Undisputed 2, Last Man Standing.
All right. Did you guys have any other ones that, like, you honorable mentions or anything like that? Or anything that didn't quite make your list?
I had one, but I'm not sure if people have seen this or not, but it's called Identity.
Yes.
With Ray Liotta and John Cusack.
I do like that movie a great deal.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool movie. If you have not seen that, I would definitely check that out. It's kind of a thriller type movie too. Really cool.
I had a few. I had one called Steakland that's currently on streaming.
Is it about steak?
No, it's about Steakland as in vampire steak. It's like a dystopian future ruled by vampires. It's actually really pretty cool. I would highly recommend that. I also had a movie called Sleepless Night, which is, again, it's a French action film, though. It's kind of like, some people said it was something like Die Hard because it's basically about this guy who's stuck in this building. And a lot of great action scenes. Highly recommend that. And the last one I had was one called, actually I had 2 more. One was Boy A, which is a British film starring Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield. It's a drama. He was about him as a child. He basically was put in jail, and he's coming out and kind of gets into his transition from that. And lastly, Four Lions, which is this is like, you want a dark comedy. You can't get much darker than that of Four Lions. And it's a movie that's not afraid to offend people because it's basically a comedy about these terrorists in a way. It's very well made, and I think that is too available on streaming. I'm not 100% certain. It was a few weeks ago, but things come off of Netflix real quickly. So, and last week we did not do an episode of Unknown, but we are bringing it back for this week.
Whoop, whoop.
All right, and this week we have Unknown episode 3, Meat Puppet.
A meatpacking plant somewhere in the middle of the city known as Harkness. A team of men and women in white coats packing meat in a large cooler with multiple slabs on hooks.
So then she dumps a beer on me in front of everybody.
Dude, you were totally right to call her a bitch.
Hey, pass down another pork shoulder. And could you guys give it a damn rest?
I tell you, I should have called her worse. If I knew she was going to dump a whole beer on me.
Waste of a good beer, if you ask me.
Should have doused you with acid, if you ask me.
What the hell is that?
What the fuck, man?
The commotion leads to a panic among the workers, who all scatter and leave. All except one.
Dawn of the Dead?
Nice to meet you. Did you miss me?
Not in the least. I'm trying to move on with my life. Trying to find a way to make up for my mistakes.
Seems to be an odd way to make up for it. Slicing up meat to be put in a bag? Sounds like your old job, if you ask me.
This is just to get some money saved up so I can feed myself. I haven't thought of a plan to make up for my sins.
Well, then you should be very glad to see me. Very glad indeed. You see, you don't need a plan because I have it.
Oh? What would that be?
It's a plan that makes greater use of your skills than butchering meat that has already suffered enough. No. You need to use those skills to make those who need punishment suffer.
What does that even mean?
For someone with legs, you are rather slow. Did you know that? It is quite simple, really. You kill those that deserve it. Maybe one of your ilk killer. Maybe a rapist. Or anyone that preys on the weak. It would save the innocent like the police. Save them from having to perform the nasty deeds themselves. And keep them away from a fate like yours.
So, that's it?
Oh, no. You see, you don't have to outright slaughter. You can ask them questions before you do the deed. You see, these people would have been your co-workers. They would know who you are.
I would be a modern-day Sisyphus.
I suppose so. You know, sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Trust me, I should know. Sin has been a struggle for all mankind. Why shouldn't you struggle with it as well?
I don't know. All that murder, though?
You're already stained in blood. Oh, what does a few more flecks matter?
What do you get out of this? Giving me this plan of death and destruction.
Why would you think that? Just because we have met not that long ago, and that this is the second time we've talked. Oh, you could read me so well. You may not know this, but it's lonely being a ghost. Most usually hang out in dark old houses. I'm looking for friends is all.
Seriously?
No, of course not. Well, half of it's true. It's lonely and things do get rather boring. But you could be rather interesting. Like you said, you're a damn Greek tragedy.
I won't be your puppet. I refuse.
Get it right. Might be able to convince you otherwise.
All right, well, we hope you enjoyed episode 3 of Unknown Meat Puppet, which sounds delicious and fun to play with. So,
a meat puppet is, Dan.
All right. Anything before we bring this episode to a close?
Hopefully I'll get that person on Skype to talk to me. I'll try a couple more times this week. If it doesn't work out, I think we'll give up on that person.
Maybe the only person in the world that is trying to get hooked up with a scam artist.
Maybe, who knows?
It might be the person.
They're the only one that won't talk to you.
They'll be the only person that gets blocked by that person. All right. Well, there's a lot of ways to get in contact with us. If you have movies that you feel like people need to see, us included, you can contact us by sending us email at feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can comment on the episode post at geekcastradio. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. If you search Talking in Circles, I'm also on Twitter at Movie Revolt. But I think that's pretty much it. So that'll bring us to the end of this week's episode. We've kind of had an unknown and Star Wars theme kind of going through it. Interesting. But we hope you join us next week. Same time, same channel, same podcast feed. But for now,
this has been Chuck.
This has been Greg, or Julie Warner's boobs.
And this has been Dan being creeped out and talking in circles. We'll see you next week.
Nice.
Her boobs are magnificent, though, Dan. I highly recommend you check out those boobs.
Those were your first, Greg.
Yes, those were my first. Yes.
You couldn't stand up for a week.
Nope, could not. I'm pretty sure Michael J. Fox woke up with morning wood because he takes his blanket with him and kind of covers himself with it. And then she's like, jumps out of the water naked, and she's like, "You want to hand me a towel or something?" And like, he's very hesitant to hand her the blanket that he has on.
I'm like, man, I wish I could go back in time and unget this photo.
People would have the color. They would know who you are.
I would be like a modern day pussyfoot.